Must send me the link too so I could send it when we start, yeah?
And now, here is Coretta McDonald, Member of Parliament and host of Advancing the Cause.
Well, good evening and how are you? Welcome to another episode of Advancing the Cause. We're here with you again to share with you many more things that are happening in this country and where we are as against where we were pre-2015. When we think about where we are at this time, it is really, really sad that Guyana as a country, after so many years of turmoil, after so many years of thinking that we've made that step to freedom, we still seem to be having a long, long way in terms of our walk to freedom. But you know what? We are that group of resilient people, and we're not going to falter. We're not going to give up. We will continue to press on because we will get there one of these days where we'll recognize that good life for every single Guyanese citizen, regardless of your color, creed, race, or religion, or whichever political party you're affiliated to, you'll be part of that good life. And so on Advancing the Cause this evening, we want to say happy birthday, first of all, to all those who are celebrating birthdays today. Those who would have celebrated birthdays yesterday and the days before, happy birthday to you. And I trust that God is going to continue to bless you and to continue to give you that strength so that you would be able to encourage others to do the things that are right and to make us realize that motto that we have, which says one people, one nation, one destiny. Blessings to you all. And of course, while we are happy and we're celebrating birthdays, we are also sending out our condolences to those who would have lost loved ones. And of course, we know that has happened during the week. And just a few days ago, one of my colleague MP, Honorable Nima Flubess, she lost her mother. And so on behalf of Advancing the Cause, we want to extend our sympathies to you and to all the other members of your family. We know that this is indeed a hard time for you, but I trust that God is going to give you folks that comfort that you need, grant you the comfort you need at this time to endure this pain that you're having. And one day, very, very soon, there'll be no more deaths and we'll all be rejoicing. So please do accept our condolences, and we pray that you receive that strength to go on from day to day, because I know that void is not an easy one to fill, but God is going to give you the strength. And so to all those who are experiencing this deep pain, we extend our condolences to you. And so on our highlights for this evening, well, we got big story in this place, And some of the stories we have, Sergeant Bascom. Yes, Sergeant Bascom is the guy who's hitting the airwaves at this time with all of those revelations that he has made so far. And they are very, very damning revelations those are allegations that are made where senior officers in the Guyana Police Force, he said, they have been involved in cover-ups of murder. And, this officer would have released those recordings there where he was live on Facebook and he was talking about all these things that are happening in the police force. And what is striking about some of the things he said, or one of the things that really struck me, is that he said, we have some very, very good police officers in the Guyana Defense Force, but we got plenty rogue ones too. And this is what we've been saying all the time. We know they got rogue cops in the police force. I'm hoping that very, very soon we would be able to push them right out. We don't need rogue cops. We want police officers who are prepared to protect and serve. Police officers who are prepared to be professional. Police officers who would go out there to perform their duties based on that oath that you would have taken. So even if it's your mother, you have to go out there and perform your duties. And so that officer right now, he's very fearful for his life, and I know he would have sought the services of attorney Nigel Hughes. And attorney Hughes, I recognize he would have written to a couple of agencies and to the president of this country. Yes, we know that he's installed, but he would have written to him asking, making requests for protection for this young man. I noticed today in an update, the president, he's being very technical. He has not yet seen the letter. It has been delivered to the office, but he has not yet seen the letter. I'm hoping that while he is in Trinidad there, on whatever official business that is, he is going to take some time off and ask that they WhatsApp that letter to him so that we can put proper systems in place for this young man. You know, very often I wonder what is happening with the Guyana Police Force or in the Guyana Police Force, because I know that we had senior officers like Felix Winston Felix and Paul Slow and Conway and Henry Fraser and so many more, Rugbeer and all of these guys, and they served with distinction. We had Lloyd Barker and so many more. Let me stop calling names because, you know, I might hear, oh, you only call a certain grouping of names. But these guys served with distinction. And when they went out there to do their jobs, and many other junior ranks, when they went out there to do their jobs, they did their jobs as professionals. And they were able to pull criminals in. They were able to pull suspects in. They were able to garner information. But I recognize the way the Guyana Police Force is going now. You're killing the messenger, so you don't need the message any longer. You don't need to know who is giving who what and who doing what. It seems as if you don't want to get the information. So you're just killing people. But we're hoping that Mr. Bascom is going to get the kind of protection that he so desires, and that an investigation would be launched into the allegations that are being made by Mr. Bascom at this time. And of course, I know since the letter has not yet been seen, I know that Attorney Hughes is a very intelligent man, so he's going to do the right thing. He's going to send other copies so that Mr. Ali can receive a copy of that letter. And then I recognize that the Guyana Fire Service, they have spent a whopping $46.2 million to acquire 3 more tankers. Is it tankers they call them, or browsers, whatever they call them, for the fire service? And they're hoping that with these 3 additional equipment, that they're going to be able to quell or out, or whatever we want to say, fires when we have them. I noticed the minister is very daring, and he said, they noticed that there are malicious fires that are being set around the place. I don't know how we know them stories, but this is what the minister is saying. And I'm hoping that with the 1,800 gallons of water that they can carry, that they'll be on time, and we'll have many more fires put out and buildings being saved. And so while we're on that issue of the president saying he did not see the letter, but he knows that the letter, or he heard that the letter was delivered, we had today the police commissioner having a press conference with some of his senior officers. But before the press conference, he would have ignored and dismissed the claims made by the sergeant. And I'm saying, what kind of police force are we having? Again, what foolishness you're doing? You just heard this man making claims, and without having an investigation, you dismiss them. So case closed, story finish. But, you know, I remember this guy, Roger Khan, at Ricardo's funeral. He said, you know, he couldn't understand how come on Main Street, not far from the official residence of the president and the official residence of the prime minister, that none of the cameras there are working. None of the cameras. He couldn't understand that. And we are now recognizing why we were being told that the cameras are not working. But that's another story. And let me tell you, Guyana nice, bad. Guyana nice, bad. And so more on police stories. We have Sergeant McLennan, he's been granted $250,000 bail, and this is the young man who has been implicated in the shooting to death of Quindon Bacchus. Yes, he has been granted $250,000 bail today. And more on police stories. There's plenty highlights on police we got this evening. More on police stories. We recognize that there are lots and lots of call for the resignation of Blanham and the Caesar. Since you're implicated in a whole big something there, these allegations that are you are part, your name calling, as a matter of fact, in these allegations, lots of calls are being made that you should resign and that the investigation should be started. You cannot be sitting there and an investigation going on, because if you're junior ranks, we know the story. If the junior ranks got to investigate you, the senior ranks, nothing can happen. We know the story. Good. And so those are some of the highlights that we have here. And then we need to remind persons that, when you have a little protest, they call out the police force, tactical service, they call out the Guyana Defense Force, and then you had horse race just a couple of days ago, block off the whole road of the West Coast Berbice. 5-6 hours people had to be lined up there in lines, vehicles in lines. What are we really doing in this place? Huh? This is the kind of movement that we are having as a people, with all this oil money that we're talking about and the next Dubai of the Caribbean. What is really happening with us? We got to do better than this, man. We got to do better than this. And then so, counting down on our highlights for this evening, we saw 2 shootings. Come on, police, you need to do your work. You need to be a little more active in the communities. We saw a taxi driver being shot, and then there was a little brawl in Perica there, and one person is dead. That brawl left one person dead. And so, come on, folks, we've got to find other ways and means of resolving our issues. Resolving issues doesn't mean that we have to use violence. Come on, we got to do better than this. But that's all that we have so far for highlights on this evening's program. I have a guest that I want to bring on stage, bring in studio with us, sorry. And this young man, I'm not sure how many of our young people would know him, but quite a lot of our older folks would know him because he has made his mark in this country. As a matter of fact, he is holding a record. I'm not going to tell you what that record is. He's going to tell you about that. But let me not go too much in between us and our guest for this evening. And so, Dr. De Silva, welcome to Advancing the Cause. Here is where we share lots and lots of information, accurate information that is, and we update our viewers on what is happening and what we would like to see happening and how we can help to make things better. So welcome to Advancing the Cause.
Thank you very much for inviting me this evening into the studio to share some of my experiences with the audience. So whatever you would like me to share with them, just please.
All right. I want you to know too that we have on this program we have viewers from as far as Switzerland. From as far as Switzerland, we have viewers viewing us there. We have viewers viewing us from Turkey, across the Caribbean, North America, South America. Everywhere we have persons viewing us from, and when you read the comments that they send you, sometimes you recognize that sometimes people on the outside know a lot more than what we know on the inside here, but that's another story. But Doc, I know that you're a country boy, and they say, when country boy come to town, they get shine and so, but we're not going to talk about that. But Doc, could you tell us a little about Simpson De Silva?
Okay, I am Simpson De Silva from Lancaster Village, Quarantine Coast, Berbice, that's in Region 6 of Guyana. And I graduated from high school in 1977. And from that, 1975, and I did go on to the Guyana School of Agriculture on the East Coast, where I spent 2 years doing general agricultural science. And immediately I started to work with the Ministry of Agriculture in Wauna Yarakita. It's in the Northwest region. But I must admit that prior to going to WAUNA, while still a student, I did a stint with GuyBank, that's the Guyana Agricultural Development Bank, as a student doing an internship and learned a lot. So I had some banking experiences and then agriculture field assistant experience. Immediately thereafter, at the tender age of 17, I did go on to Cuba to study veterinary medicine.
Oh.
And there I spent 5 years specializing in veterinary public health and what you call anthropozoonosis, which is the prevention of disease transmission from animals to man, and with a minor in food protection. And then I returned to Guyana in 1983 to work with the Ministry of Health as Principal Veterinary Public Health Officer, with a lot of stint within all over Guyana and in the Caribbean through PAHO, WHO, FAO, ICA, and so on. And that gave me a lot of experience in and out of Guyana. And I can recall that at the age of 25, I was summoned by the president at the time of Guyana, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, and he told me that he heard that a lot of people all over the world were using me to do all kinds of agricultural health related work, teaching, lecturing, and so on, because at the time I was also lecturing at the University of Guyana. I'm the guy who took the first batch of public health officers from the Ministry of Health to be trained further in public health. So when I was called an offer to work with the government of Guyana in the capacity of Minister of Agriculture, I told the president at the time that I had to think about it, because I was enjoying my stint in the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, and related to many other interministerial organizations and agencies with respect to the broad spectrum of food and nutrition security, food safety, and the whole business of food systems. But after careful consideration with consultation with my friends, because I had to consult my friends, I was single at the time, so there was no wife nor girls, went to consult. I decided to accept the offer, and at 25 years of age, I started to serve as minister within the Ministry of Agriculture in Guyana, reporting directly to the Prime Minister at the time, who was Hugh Desmond Hoyt.
Wow.
So I had that portfolio all by myself to deal with.
Wow. So at age 25, you became Minister of Agriculture.
Correct.
Not Junior Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture at age 25. And so I think this is a record that you're holding here. You probably in the same lineup with Mr. Bolt. He has a record there and you have a record here. But, you know, the thing is, we've heard lots and lots of talks just the other day about a couple of crazy people, you know, jumping around the place that they're minister this age and minister of that age. But I'm sure this is one of the facts that they don't know. This is one of the facts that they don't know. And so I just want to emphasize this, that Dr. Simpson De Silva became the Minister of Agriculture at age 25, and he served under Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham when he was the executive president of this country. Now, Doc, you're going to have to tell us some of your experiences with Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, because I know quite a lot of our young people, they don't know much about Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. What they know is what they have been reading and the misinformation that has been peddled over the years, which painted this man, LFSB, as a dictator, a wicked man, a man who wanted to see people suffer. Tell us about your experience working under Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham.
I must admit that I do not know of that evil, wicked person that people make Lyndon Forbes Thompson Barnum to be. The total opposite is what I know. He was a very charismatic people's person. He cared about people, planet, and prosperity. He was, from what I recall, not only a champion of sustainable development in Guyana, but sustainable development in the Caribbean. He was not only known in the Caribbean to be the leader in sustainable development, but Latin America, Caribbean, and the rest of the world. I could remember at the time we were advancing the whole business about feeding ourselves. And I recall that Barnum led from the fields. He is one of those who I can recall, he walked the talk. He did the conversations, he took actions, and he solved problems within the communities. And technically, that is what ought to be happening all over the world. He made sure that he tried his best to put teams in the communities with the capability to guide our people. Those were the days of extension officers. But he didn't just leave it to the agricultural extension officers. He tried to get training or instruct that we have training for other members of the communities, and to insist, and he insisted that in the school systems that agriculture, science be taught and food and nutrition be taught, so that the wider population could understand and link food into all other spheres of development. And I would like to explain what I mean by that and what he meant. He saw agriculture as the foundation for sustainable development, in that through the linkages of agriculture through science and technology, because at the time we were pushing IAST, which is the Institute of Applied Science and Technology that Dr. Trotz was heading. And he insisted that in the school system, while people were learning basic things like physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and even language, that they should deal with the scope, sequence, and coordination of the subject matter in school to show the linkages. Because if you were to look at it carefully, the plant, not to talk about animals, just plant is connected to every aspect of life. If you're talking about history, it is how we came here. We came here to the plantation, to labor and not be paid and whipped. So history can teach you a lot about the plant, which is the sugarcane at that time, and cocoa and coffee. That's what they brought us here to do. And then if you want to talk about photography and literature, you write about what has happened in the past. You write about the stories. If you want to talk about physics, chemistry, biophysics, biochemistry, all of those things are linking. Then he took us through the whole business of agro-processing. Agro-processing was fundamental. People think it was bad to have restricted and in some cases banned certain kinds of food items. But if you look at the story today, those same things that he was causing us to make sure that we produce a lot of, check the price of those things all over the world. Because Barnum at the time was teaching us that we must not waste the food. And that method was used through dehydration, because 30 to 40% of the food around the world is wasted and you just don't make no money from it. But if you were to dehydrate the products or use other methods of preservation, you save so much percentage of food. And that is why we at one time even won prizes in Europe for the kinds of products we were growing. And if we were to fast track today and do what he was saying that we should have done and what we were doing, then we would be in a better place. Look at the price of food. Look at all those things we're imported now, and that threatens our food sovereignty, threatens our food safety, because all these genetically modified products, all these products that are coming here that are so contaminated. And even us locally, before we used to have better controls of food with respect to safety, all kinds of chemical contamination and pesticides that are used and abuse of fertilizers. I urge us to rally, to champion within our communities to go back to basics and stop the abuse of all these chemicals. So Barnum, at the time, insisted, and I recall very clearly, that as we go out, we try to teach the people the basic principles of what you call now organic farming, because that was a big thing, or what you call in some circles permaculture, which is merely ecological farming. You just use the nature, use the plants and the animals that are around to control pests and diseases. We did that. The best thing right now, and the whole world is talking about carbon farming and sustainable agriculture development, so that we can have sustainable production and sustainable consumption. All we have to do is go back to the days of the 70s and 80s and put those practices into place, and we would be in better places. So I remember times when, because of what I was doing throughout the country, I was very busy. Barnum would tell me, Simpson, when you're going to ABC place, please call me. I'll come with you. And we went to almost every region of Guyana working with farmers. That is the man that I know, a champion of sustainable development. There was protection of the things below water, which is what sustainable development goals, which is the water wave, the river wave, the ocean. We made sure that they were not contaminated. Then you have things above ground, make sure that the people were not abusing the chemicals. And then you make sure that there was some sort of respect for gender equity, equality for all. He insisted that we try to eradicate poverty as much as we can through these agricultural efforts. That's why we're calling now that you should have a restoration and creation of the green kitchen gardens that we used to have. I remember that is a direct form of labor by the family. Kitchen garden, family farms, and the reef, where there was dignity in the labor at that level. So we need to go back and restore those farms. Unfortunately, there's some challenges right now, but we need to overcome that, because we are seeing the prices of food. There's a serious food crisis, serious cost of living crisis, serious energy crisis, serious food safety and food security crisis. And then if you twist, there's a climate crisis with the droughts and the heavy rainfalls. So we have to be smart. We have to practice what you call smart agriculture. So there are many times now we would have to go vertical. And then in the areas that we're planting, we have to insist that drainage and irrigation, that basic infrastructural work that is necessary so that agriculture would not suffer. We need to pay some serious attention in that, especially in some vulnerable communities and some communities that are neglected. It is in our interest to use the resources we have to upgrade the drainage and irrigation infrastructure to enhance greater production and productivity of the kinds of food that we need, so that we could be very healthy and mitigate some of the effects of COVID-19, monkeypox, and all these non-communicable diseases. The food system is very important to us.
Well, thank you so much. You've said a mouthful. And and I try to capture most of what you were talking about with regards to Burnham and the way in which he managed as president. And here you are saying to us that Burnham was a man of the people. And I got the PPP. Could you tell us the PPP? What was it again?
People, planet, and prosperity.
People, planet, and prosperity.
And we need to go back, and there's another P, it's actually 4 P's. People, planet, prosperity, and partnership. He insisted that we should work together. He insisted on the question of cooperative kind of development in the interest of all. And that is why he had promoted the granting of lands to cooperative societies so that people can pool their resources, equipment-wise, and then he brought in the Ghana Agricultural Development Bank, which is a cooperative agricultural system, and we had the Housing Mortgage Finance Bank, which was cooperative in nature, and we actually had the Cooperative Bank, which was to lend resources or money, financial resources, to people for the development of their resources. Unfortunately, there's too much of discrimination and marginalization at this time to those vulnerable folks, and we need to urge the government to put systems in place, put mechanisms in place, specific mechanisms, specific systems that can cause these micro businesses, small businesses to access basic finances via mini grants and loans, soft interest loans, so that they can promote their businesses. We know that certain things are happening, but we would like to see that in a more systemic way, a more a deeper penetration of the villages or the communities, so that more people can benefit from those resources. Of course, as we rightly said, it's one people, one nation, one destiny. So I like the One Guyana concept, but it must be inclusive. We must use the diversity as our strength, but we have to focus a lot more on inclusivity, getting those who are further left behind to be dealt with now. And I think if we were to do that, we would have a model in this country that could be second to none in all over the world, because fortunately, the financial resources are available now, and we need to put them where they belong, which is in our communities, for the upliftment and empowerment of our people.
And so, Dr. Simpson, I'm hearing you saying that you traveled to every region, and the president went with you on some of those travels. And I'm sure that when you went there, you were out there seeking out the needs of the people of this country. If we were to compare the manner with which things are happening now, today, yesterday, day before yesterday, with what happened in your time, what would you say about that? How would you compare that? Because we're hearing all of these cries about marginalization and discrimination, and this community not being helped and that community is being left behind. How were you able to manage that? And I'm going to throw this one in. We hadn't oil resources then. And so how were you able to spread your resources so that, like I'm getting from you, all and sundry were able to feel the presence of the man, to get relief? What did you do then? What different did you do?
I think what we did then is we went closer to the people. I could remember when I was minister, before going to a community to visit, I made sure that the agriculture officer, the Guy Bank officer, I instructed them to go before me and examine the needs of the people. Go before me and educate the people, go and help, so that when I get there, the challenges or the complaint must be lessened. And if by chance, when we get there and they're complaining, we have to stay there and work and solve the problems on the ground. So I took the technical people out in the field. That was the mandate. And then while I was going, I did go with them. I am a little fortunate in that I worked within the system. I came back to Guyana. I left Guyana in 1989 thereabout, returned permanently back here in 2005. And when I came, I visited almost all the communities, just like what I used to do when I was minister. But this time, because it's something I love, I did it voluntarily. Then in 2009, I was working with the PPP government at the time as mangrove restoration chair of the mangrove restoration program. So I was able to visit many more of the communities again. And then after that, in the Granger government, I worked as community development director, assistant director, and I was responsible for technical issues with respect to greening of communities. So that took me all over Guyana again. What I found, what we were doing then, I'm sorry, and I would happy to say now that in this time, within the last 5 years or 2-3 years, I'm still on the ground through many efforts. What I find then, the officers were more committed. They loved their work. They did it with pleasure. And I found that there's an erosion of that. The officers are not as committed as our officers used to be. I even found in more recent time that officers, when they were supposed to be out in the fields doing the work, they were at home. A lot of them I knew. A lot of them, the vets and even the agricultural officer, we happen to know each other. And they would be honest with me. So we need a total revitalization, a re-engineering, a recommitment of officers, recommitment of the members of the community, because I even caught our people lacking, all races, Indian, Black, Amerindian, all over. They need to recommit to working the land, recommit to tilling the soil, recommit and understand that agriculture is what drives everything. The egg, the meat, the peas and the beans and the flowers, and even the honey and everything. Agriculture is the most important thing to mitigate against climate change. It causes greater amount of carbon sink. Forestry is part of agriculture. The ocean has a series of seaweeds. The wetland forest, which is a mangrove going out to the sea, and the rivers and the creeks, they sequester more carbon than the rainforest. So we need to understand that without agriculture, or the commitment to agriculture, is what makes us to be alive. Without bees, we wouldn't be alive, which is apiculture. Without the plant and photosynthesis, we would not be alive. That's from where we get the medicine. And in many cases of preventative medicine for the building of the immune system to prevent a whole host of non-communicable diseases like heart attack, stroke, diabetes, cancers, and so on. And even the communicable ones like COVID-19 and so on. We need to build our system so that we prevent ourselves from getting, and if by chance you get it, so you're able to live and resist these diseases. So we need to, and I'm saying we, because all of us need to take on this challenge of advocating, bringing awareness, using the primary schools, the nursery schools, the secondary schools, the universities to show people clearly that this thing that they're talking about, the 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals and low carbon development strategies, 2030, all are linked with agriculture as a foundation. And if we are very smart, we could use that opportunity to educate our people very well so that we can be this model that I'm talking. So in the comparative analysis, I'm saying, let us go back to do the basic good things that we used to do, and let us use the resources that we have now that we didn't have then, and become this global model, meaning a world-class model. I'm convinced that if they use the human resources we have, that is all of us, irrespective of your political party affiliation, irrespective of your race, irrespective of your religious belief, irrespective of your so-called disabilities and so on, if we were to embrace as one big family, one smart family, one cooperative family, we would be second to none in the world. And I urge all of us who are in the opposition, who are in the government, who are in civil society, who are in academia, who are in the media, to use, and the faith-based organizations, to use all the clout that there is to bring our people to that understanding that we must work together for the benefit of all the people so that we can recover from COVID better, spring back in that resilient way, and build a sustainable society or a sustainable and prosperous communities wherever we are. That's my position.
But in order to do that, it means that we have to, as a people and as government, we have to treat people with respect.
Yes.
We have to treat people equally. And I'm saying this because we've seen what has happened over the last 2 years, where some groups are being treated better than others. We have seen on the quarantine, coming from right where you came from, between that Lancaster Hawk style stretch, the people there who are presumed to be supporters of the coalition, they have been left behind. We saw lots and lots of flooding in those areas, and no kind of help really was offered to them. Or if at all any help was offered, you had maybe, and I'm just going to use wild figures here, a $5 given here, but in another community, you had $50 given there. Your thoughts on these? How do we pull a society together if we have this kind of blatant discrimination being displayed?
There again, because of my activism and my belief in what I do, and I think the purpose for which the Creator put me on this earth, I did a lot of voluntary work during that flood relief time, and I was part of the International Decade of People of African Descent group, where I am the chairman of the Economic Committee.
Okay.
And we did do a survey. We actually did a survey, and we took records in Region 6, Region 5, Region 4, many regions, but I was responsible for Region 6. And unfortunately, a lot of people suffered tremendous losses, and they did not get the basic relief that they should have gotten.
Wow.
I am very sad about the state of affairs in those neglected communities. And we thought that, and we were promised that relief would have gone to those communities. From my vantage point, it is not too late. I think things ought to be done in a very respectful, a very non-discriminatory way, so that those people, and in those villages, many of them lost almost everything. In some cases where they had poultry, it's only those chickens that escaped the Creole birds and were sleeping in the gooseberry tree, tamarind tree, and guinea tree. They survived. But everything else, entire catch crop, they were destroyed. Entire ducks or the whole livestock, about 80-90% in many cases, were destroyed. I would tell you, and I would challenge anyone on this, there is no other community in Guyana that had a group of people in their homestead, all or most of them had small business in terms of agriculture, chickens, ducks, sheep, goat, and catch crop. And they suffer tremendous loss. And I think some special things needs to be happening right now because they're still suffering. They still haven't rebounded in a way that should have happened. So we need to take the relief program, and this is relief program to help to cushion the cost of living crisis that is being experienced. The prices of everything have gone up 100, 200, in some cases 300%. But the poor people, as you are an expert on labor, their salaries have not gone up.
Nope.
So they are technically suffering from what you call food and nutrition insecurity. They're not food secure. A matter of fact, many people in Guyana and the Caribbean and around the world are food insecure. And we are told that next year could be worse in many parts of the world. But we have an opportunity now, if we were to do the right thing, which is reach out. These people took their monies from their pocket and lost everything. So there should be some special grant. And wherever you don't have enough for grant, then you should be a hybrid of grant / soft loans so that the people can go back to do what they were doing best. I could remember back in the 70s and 80s, every single household in those areas, including Auckland, Wim, Letterkenny, Bloomfield, Lancaster, Liverpool, Manchester, Ulverston, Little Alness, Big Alness, Salton, to Hoxtide. Every year, most people had 5 or 6 children. In my case, we were 14.
Oh, wow.
And I don't remember being poor because we fed ourselves. We even had from where we go and catch fish because every household, most houses had a pond. And then in front was kept so clean that you could catch your huri, your tilapia, your pato, and so on. So we need to go back to those kinds of days. And you see the goals in sustainable development reflects or speak to that, that you should have everything in water should be clear and clean and healthy. We experience that. Let us stop contaminating the waterways by spraying all these chemicals to kill grass. We are contaminating the soil, and when the rainfall goes into the waterways, contaminate the water. So we are poisoning ourselves and our families. And we need to stop. I observed that on the stretch from UG, where those mangroves are growing now, at the back of the coconut tree, they've started to spray there. There's no need to spray there because when you spray, you're contaminating the soil and you're giving people the impression that that's what you're supposed to do. As a matter of fact, we know in many places do that, but we need to stop. So we have a lot of work to do. We, as in the current government, the opposition, the various universities in Guyana, all the stakeholders, agencies, and so on, so that collectively we could go back to that place and better, call on the private sector to exercise corporate social responsibility, call on the diaspora to work together with the people from the villages, rather than sending handouts or rather than the government giving handouts, give them the tools or the means of production so they can produce and to be part of the sustainable development of our communities and villages and those squatting areas and all of that. That's my take on it.
Well,
Sister.
I hear you. I hear you. And I'm wondering, because I know that the Minister of Agriculture that we have at this time, he was boasting about all the relief that they give to farmers in this community in Region 6, in this place, in that place, and in the other place. But yet we are hearing the cry that people have suffered and they are still suffering. I don't know why you have to, why, well, I think the parliament has now become a circus scene. So you come there and you just display and you do what you want to do and you say what you want to say. And it go down as gospel. But here it is, we have the information that many people, many of our citizens are suffering. They have suffered, they've lost almost everything coming out of that flood. We still have flooding in communities. What are some suggestions that you would want to give to assist those communities with regards to holding those waters from coming into the communities?
Well, I know that people would be hearing me from all facets, all sections, or all parties, and all walks of life. And I would like to know that whoever is hearing, that they could join with us to send a clear signal to those who are in charge of the resources to relook at the current situations in the communities and engage various stakeholders, purposefully so, because the resources of this country, the last time I checked, is supposed to be for the benefit of all. I am saying to us, let us practice truly that one Guyana concept, which is about one people, one nation, and one destiny. Let us use it for the benefit of all the races. Let us try our best not to discriminate. It's not easy, but we can try. And let us bring the parties, the players, the stakeholders, let us bring the people together, and let us once and for all be honest with ourselves and do the right thing. Let the resources be spent for the upliftment of the people in the community. Let the resources be spent to empower the people so they can move out of that state of poverty, because there's a poverty crisis in many of the communities. They can move that from state of hunger, because there's a hunger crisis. There's a food crisis, there's a hunger crisis in many of communities. Because let me explain this thing. Food security in any community or any home or any person is that person must have available, accessible, and affordable foods that he can use for the good of himself, and so that he can live a healthy lifestyle. And that, mind you, it is having at least 2 servings of vegetables, not contaminated vegetables, not poisoned vegetables, 2 servings of healthy vegetables per day. Currently, many of our people are just merely having 1, if at all. They're supposed to have at least 2 to 3 servings, 2 servings of peas and beans of some kind. Then you're supposed to have your protein source. If, irrespective of your religion and your culture, if that is not happening, you're food insecure, you're hungry, and you will definitely get sick. So if we should do the right thing, empower people so food security could be guaranteed, food sovereignty, which is doing it yourself, so that you don't have to bring it from Ukraine or Russia or one of those other countries. And that is my position. Let there be, all of us, let us speak with one voice now and in 2022 to 2030, let us really try to do what needs to be done so we can make it better for this generation and future generations to come. We have that opportunity. It is possible. I'm calling on us to keep pressing so that must happen now.
Well, I hear your cry, and I'm sure our viewers, if we can get some of the comments there, I'm sure that our viewers are watching and that they are going to be commenting, and they are seeing what is happening, and I as soon as I looked at the comments, I was just going to talk about this, the black belly sheep that we have. I noticed we're bringing black belly sheep here. Your thoughts on this, because I've recognized that we are spending lots and lots of monies to bring these black belly sheep here from Barbados. And of course, this is not going to be the sheep coming in here. It's not just a gift we're getting. Of course, we have to spend lots of money to make those purchases. And it's probably a trade-off somewhere or something like that. But the thing is, how many persons, how many of our people are going to benefit from this black sheep that coming to this country? What system do we have that would show us that it is spread equally across the communities or the regions in this country? How do we, your take on this black belly sheep?
For me, the black belly sheep is a good thing. It's a breeding stock that would be used to upgrade the stock. Is very prolific, very resistant to our environment. We have had black belly sheep many times before, and if you go into the quarantine and Essequibo and certain parts, you would see a cross between black belly and our local stock. So the black belly breeder stock is a good thing. What we need to do is get people in the community to register with the Livestock Development Authority for black belly sheep, because there's a system in place. Currently, I know the guy who is in charge of it, Dr. Dwight Waldron, and I've spoken to him on many occasions, and he assures me that as long the people register, they will try their best to be as non-discriminatory as possible. And I hope that is what is going to happen. So my first call is to our people, irrespective of your race, go and register with the Ministry of Agriculture. And there's some special packages for female and even single parent. So register and keep monitoring, because you remember, I heard what you said about the opposition, the parliamentarians in opposition and so on, but I would like to call on not only the parliamentarians on the government side, but parliamentarians on the opposition and the people in the labor movement and people in various sectors to be monitoring, because there's where monitoring and evaluation, not only of black belly, we are supposed to be monitoring and evaluating all programs that are in Guyana. It is not like before. Even the developmental partners have it written in their giving of grants and loans that there must be inclusion. So we need to be monitoring and speaking and reporting appropriately across the board. If for me, if there's a time when the parliamentarians should be busiest, it is now, because it's a lot of money. Mind you, Guyana, if we want to believe it or not, the fact is the fastest growing economy in the world. When you're seeing economies are growing at developed countries at 5 and 6 and 7%, and the ones that are in the other side are growing at 0 point something percent, we are for 20, 30, 40, 50 And it is predicted from those other countries would be worse. So for whatever the oil and gas is causing to happen in Guyana, we have to understand clearly that money we have and money we will have. So the people have to come together in an organized way to get part of that patrimony, part of what belongs to us is our money, is our resources. And that is a part and distinct from reparations, which is another story that I think that reparations should be now. Or reparations should be given. So we must be organized so that we can get the benefits of what belongs to all of us right now. And don't wait for later. Let us do what we're supposed to do in the interests of all.
Well, yes, we are hearing this, and I'm hoping, viewers, that you are taking note and you are going to apply to the various departments
Livestock
where
department.
agriculture is in your communities, that you're going to go there and you're going to make those registration, you're going to take your documents and get registered so that you can be part of what is happening. But Doc, we've moved off of livestock and we have this whole big issue with sugar. But before I get to sugar, I need to say to you, while we are the fastest growing economy in the world, if I can put it that way, many of our people are living under the poverty line. We have seen outside of COVID, which would have brought on many hardships, we have not seen that kind of relief being given to our people. Many would have lost jobs. Outside of COVID, many were dismissed from their jobs when the PPP government were installed. And so these people have continued to live on the poverty line. But there is no real help that is given to them. And for those who are working, we have seen it again. No salary increases. You go to the markets, a pile of boro like this, $500. You go to buy plantain. Plantain is $270. At one time, it was $300 a pound. Now, how is this small man able to feed himself and his family when the salaries you're working for is this, and everything else that you're going out there to do is this size to make the purchases? But then we have this big thing now, sugar. And we recognize that lots and lots of monies have been pumped into sugar. But where are we with sugar?
The sugar story is a very interesting story. And we have had a lot of thoughts on it. But I have visited many of those estates, and there are some estates that definitely cannot return to sugar, will not return to sugar. I think what needs to happen on those lands, they should have a massive diversification plan involving the same people who used to be working in those estates and the wider communities where those lands are. And I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that with assistance, enabling assistance from the government, clear titles given to people, be it by the way of lease, which should be leases that are not, that don't have a cloud, because Wales estate is experiencing a lot of that, where because of the previous administration issued land by the way of lease. When the current administration came in, they issued letters to quit by those folks, and there are hundreds. And the fact that that has happened, the people cannot go to the bank. And those who had gone to the bank because they'd had clean leases, now in many cases, there's interruption of the drainage and irrigation system. There's breaking down of bridges, burning of bridges, so the people don't have access. I think all those things should stop immediately. And instead of those kinds of actions that are obviously marginalization and discriminatory, they must cease forthwith. They're not in the interest of the government. They're not in the interest of the opposition. They're not in the interest of anyone. They're counterproductive. And then we should open up the estate and the estate lands for serious organic farming, serious aquaculture, which is fish farming, together with other kinds of practices. And then you could do bee culture, apiculture. But more importantly, the baigan, which is the big plant, or the balanje that sells for $400 now, that will change. The okra that is $200 something a pound, and you could plant 1 million okra. My challenge to this system right now, let us open up and get the people to plant millions of plants, herbs and spices, roots and tubers, fruits and vegetables, peas and beans, and get millions of coconut plants, millions of avocado, millions of pawpaw, so that we can truly be food and nutrition secure, self-sufficient, or food sovereign, and the rest we target for the overseas market. In the Caribbean, parts of Latin America, Europe, because there's serious drought and floods all over, and we are blessed in this part of the world that we can still do some smart type of agricultural production. And in many cases, in certain parts, we go up vertically. And I'm challenging us to go on this national drive for real production of healthy foods for us in Guyana, for the Caribbean, and the rest of the world. It is possible. So what we need to do now is, together with all stakeholders, pull our people in the communities, link up with those who have the resources. We cause bridges in terms of partnership, and let us get the work done. Because if that does not happen, then the problem we will have is the rich will get richer, and the poor will get poorer. As you rightly said, the cost of these commodities are out of the reach of the average person. And something must be done urgently. There must be a call to action in an equitable way, a call to action so that all our people, and believe me, if that were to happen, we would reduce crime. We will, because you have to teach the people about these new methods, so education would become better. Health would be improved. Employment will go up significantly. And then as a result of that, we can, because we're having good leases and like what Howard is starting now in Golden Grove, that must happen throughout the country. So people can use their titles or leverage their titles for partnership and for investment that makes sense. So I think we must use this challenge with the COVID crisis, the health crisis, and the energy crisis, and must touch on this. We need to go to the biomass or biofuels or bioenergy, because that is accessible to everyone. There's grass everywhere. We must go to biofertilizer. Fertilizer is expensive, but for those that are coming in, we can produce all the fertilizer we need right now for many of our crops. We go using the grass, in any given square yard, you have at least 25 different types of plants that are good for fertilization of the plants that are good even for human consumption. So we have to go into our forest and use the non-timber products, bring them out for our medicines, and so on and so forth. So we have an opportunity currently, but if we involve all, so we can use or get the benefit of the knowledge of those who know, so that we can have each one to teach one. And that, I think, would go far away.
Well, you see, that right there is the problem that we have in this country, because we have recognized that after August 2nd, 2020, we no longer, it seems as if we no longer want experience and knowledge. It's just about the 3 F's: friends, favorites, and families. Whether you can do the job or not, that's the thing of the day. And so with all of this knowledge that you have, I would hope that the viewers who are watching here, whether they're trenchies or whoever they be, that they're going to pass this information on, because this thing, like you've just said, this is about us making our country a better place. And in order for us to make our country a better place, we have to be able to seek out the skill sets for the various sectors. Here we have a man who is championing the cause of agriculture. And we just playing, while our communities need the skill set that this man has. And so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do that, and we're going to be able to work to make this country a better place and stop the foolish fighting. Like you said, we saw even before the coalition were in government, we saw Barrett Jagdeo when he was president closing sugar estates. And there wasn't this big cry about it. But when the coalition government went into office and they started doing the same thing, and they had the same dream of diversifying, because we recognized that sugar wasn't taking us anywhere. It wasn't going to take us anywhere. And so we were going to use the same people right in on those plantations to plant several crops, edos and cassavas and plantains and pepper and all the other things that you can think about. And that in itself would have provided employment for them. It would have provided for us healthy food, and we would have been able to again go back to where we were when we had Burnham as president, to feeding, clothing, and housing our nation, and being the basket of the Caribbean again. Now, it's not too late for us to do that, and I'm hoping that good sense would prevail, and the Ali-led government, they would understand that while we have oil is not going to be there forever, and if we don't use the other resources that we have here, we'll end up worse than some of the other countries who are suffering at this time. And I'm not sure how many persons would want to be able to would take our people like we are taking other people, other persons from other countries. But Dr. De Silva, we are at a critical stage in our country, and if we don't do what is right, then we're going to be missing a great opportunity. A great opportunity we are going to be missing. We have lots to deal with. We have, like you said, poverty. We have crime on the increase. We have teenage pregnancy on the increase. We have many, many people living beyond the poverty line. We have murder, everything on the increase, except a rise in the standard of living. How do we deal with this? How do we get the government of the day to understand that while you're living in your big fancy lives, in your AC rooms, and you're driving your Prados down the streets, the masses out there are crying for help? How do we get them to understand that?
Well, there's a sad state of affair in Ghana in that some people don't even understand their plight. They're suffering, and they're suffering for so long that they're now numb, or they now feel that there was no better way to come necessarily. So we have to educate them. We have to show the people that yes, there is a way, and they have a right to speak to their representative in their communities.
Mhm.
The representative of the community have that responsibility to so represent. I heard what you have said, but I will still come back to the point that the leaders have to lead. The leaders have to guide. The leaders have to find a way. Because to move from the state that we're in, we have to have a food revolution, because this kind of state of affair of food, of not having it and lack of, the people have to produce. They have to go and do something different than what they're doing, because this way is not sustainable. So we must have a lot of special programs right now to cause the transformation, cause the revolution, cause the ignorance that exists to change to education, because the lack of knowledge is ignorance.
And the
And
people perish.
people will perish. And there's a lot of ignorance as we speak. And the
lots of misinformation
COVID-19
too.
challenge didn't help it.
Nope.
You go into the community, a lot of young boys and girls are not educated.
That's true.
So we have to go and educate the population. And part of that education has to be sustainable education. They have to be shown or taught via applied methodologies to understand that it's not just going along 1, 2, 3, ABC. Is how do you apply that 1, 2, 3, ABC in everyday life? So there's what I call it's a re-engineering of our curriculum to fit the time. And I must say to you, as president, I think you are president of the union, and as someone in the front line for a long time in the teaching system, there's some serious work that must be done. If that work is not would be done, our problem will never be solved. It is from that level of education, applied education, through using various means and mechanisms to cause the changes to occur. I have some experience in that area, but I don't think a lot of people know of my experience in that educational realm. I was once the principal of the first Black-run science high school in the United States of America, called Chad Science Academy. And we did a lot to educate people in math, science, and technology. We need to go back to the basics in math, science, and technology, and we need to have it applied to the other fields of study. And for me, every student through the SB, while they're studying in high school, in college, upon graduation, they must be able to show that they have done something in the community linked to their studies. Something, when the guy goes to GSA and UG to do agriculture, he must come out and get a piece of land and money so that he can do a business. All graduates should have that. That is not happening.
That's not happening.
And those are the kinds of initiatives that we need right now. Who are to benefit from our resources, but the people of Guyana. And we have many avenues. The people in A levels and Cape, they must connect to projects so that while they're studying, they're learning and they're earning, so that the transition into the communities in the world of work is easier.
It's easier. Yeah.
No graduate in the business school at UG should graduate without not having a business project in the community. In some countries, the universities work hand in hand with the development of communities. So that is some of the innovative and creative things that I would like to see. happening, and it starts with our leaders. So there's a need to, if this training doesn't is not in existence here, then we can have a lot of virtual training occurring through overseas systems that are in existence.
That's another way. Yeah, that's another way.
And bring the technology, bring the education to the people so that we'll have an educated community. And in that way, if you have a very educated community, then you can have people working in the region because it's one big space. It's no longer this small space. People will be working everywhere. So it is my challenge to us. And it's I hope you hear me saying to us. It's all of us. It's not about them and us. We are supposed to be in this thing together. Last time I checked, governance, true governance, includes all. True democracy includes all. So let us practice inclusive and participatory democracy. And we have to teach our people to make a lot of noise. I don't think I've been hearing the noise. We need to make the noise in the right places. We need to agitate at the right places. It is our responsibility. We cannot take ourselves out of this equation at all. There's absolutely no excuse. That is from my experience across the globe. What is happening here happens in many places too. But we cannot give up. We have to fight. We have to fight the good fight. We have to work together to benefit from those billions of dollars that are in existence today in the natural resource fund. I have a ton of money and a lot of money to come. But the question I would ask ourselves, are we in the communities organized with plans, organized to solicit and receive, if granted,
The funding.
and to run? I think that is our challenge, to be very organized. Lead the way we are supposed to lead is our responsibility, and then teach the others to lead. Because if we don't do that, they will see that we just throw back, we give up, and people push us aside and we stay aside. No, we cannot do that. We have to. We have to pull the cow by the horn. We have to go and deal with the situation as it is. And that is what my position is. And forever we are in this thing together. We must get our rights. It's our human rights. And no one is entitled to mess with our rights. But unfortunately, we are allowing that to happen. We have to protect the universal rights, the rights of our Constitution. And I am saying to us, let us do it.
Right. And so here is it. We would have had with us this evening Dr. Simpson De Silva, taking us through the paces. And like I recognize one of our viewers there saying, Yulene Richmond, produce or perish. And this is what Barnum said to us, produce or perish. And we have so many things here. We got all the okra seeds, we got the coconut plants, we got the borer seeds, we got the thick leaf callaloo, the stems. We got so many things here that we don't have to go very far. Stick a thing down in your yard, stick something down in your backyard, in your front yard. I remember, if I remember well, when Barnum said at one time, stop planting them flower plants while you're planting that you can't either. Stick 2 seeds down in between them. Put your flower plants in the pots and put them in the corner. Let it look nice, but stick your seeds down there. Put down a stick there. And I remember as a child, this tall, hefty man walking around the community with his long boots, and he got the the planting, the sucker plant, and the cassava sticks there, and he telling you, he dropping off at every home he passing, he dropping call you out and he dropping them off. And so we have to return to those days where we can once again be a nation that is self-sufficient. We must be able to return to those days because we have the oil money now, and we should use that and do what we were doing before, where we at one time, and Doc, you would remember that, where we used to have preserved pineapple, canned, and we exported nuts from here. We had in Lethem and those areas, we had the people planting peanuts and cashew nuts, and they exported. We must get back to those days, but we could only do that if we include all and sundry in this business. Governance means government, opposition, and the people must work together. And so that's what we're going to be leaving with you for tonight. But before we go, I want to say, shout out to our viewers, some of our regular suspects who are always there with us, Tony Fraser and Chris Kippins and Dorrit, and everybody else who've been watching us this evening. We want to thank you for being here with us on Advancing the Cause, and we look forward to seeing you next week again for more on Advancing the Cause. Do take care of yourselves, and remember, COVID is alive and well, and let us start grasping this concept where we can move ahead, mobilize each other, and move ahead so that we can make this country. We have to make the noise. When you recognize things are not happening the way they ought to happen in your communities, make the noise. Seek out persons. Go get the information. Talk to people around. Call us up and let us come there and give you the kinds of answers you need and solutions you need and the help that you would need so that you can go out there and make your registrations be known and apply for all these benefits that are moving across the place. And when you don't get them, let us know. But do take care. We'll see you again next week at 6:30 for more on Advancing the Cause. May God continue to bless us all as we all strive to make this country a better one. But let me say to you, if the PPP, for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go, because with the PPP, they see nothing about inclusivity, they see nothing about democracy, they see nothing about transparency, and for Guyana to grow, we must have all of those factors in, and we've got to move them out if we want Guyana to grow. Take care. Bye-bye. See you again next week. Good night.
Thank you for watching our program. See you right back here, same place, same time. And remember, hold the line of battle, comrades. Our victory is sure.